Hey everybody, welcome back to Game Esoterica, a continuing series, Ridge Evolution, a hard word to say, but an arcade retrospective on racing in the Ridge Racer franchise. And today, if you can't tell already, we're taking a look at Ridge Racer on the PlayStation Portable. And what this basically is a greatest hits compilation of all the best tracks from all of the Ridge Racer games that we have already talked about, which is not a bad thing, because while these are retreads of previous territory we have seen, with the uptick in graphics and the speed, it feels like playing Ridge Racer and all the associated games for the first time again. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But I remember when I bought this game on my PlayStation Portable, I hadn't played a Ridge Racer game for a long time, and I absolutely fell in love with this because even though it does just compromise tracks of the previous games, it does such a good job of modernizing them for what was at the point in time a very modern handheld console. And obviously through the power of emulation with PPSSPP right here, we can make this look like an extremely modern game, or about as close as you can with a PlayStation Portable title. But if you liked any of the other Ridge Racer games, Ridge Racer, Rave Racer, Rage Racer, R4 or otherwise, you're going to love this game. And for a lot of the earlier titles, I actually consider this to be the best way to play those tracks. Because while it's super fun to play Ridge Racer 2 in MAME or on an arcade board, the modern creature comforts you get here on the PlayStation Portable version just 100% make it a more enjoyable experience in my opinion. Now, like all Ridge Racer games, I can't recommend enough. The first-person cockpit view just makes driving that much easier, and this game is no different. I seem to hit the wall a lot more in third-person view than I do if I'm in the cockpit. But this game is just a faster version as well. You'll see here as I start jumping over these berms, I just absolutely throw the car all over the place, but I'm able to drift out of it, and the sensation of speed is just so much more fun on the PlayStation Portable. If we move over to Rave Racer here, you can see it is very similar, but it changes the time of day and a lot of the different stylistic elements. It's a reimagining of all of these games we've talked about already, but it does such a good job of reimagining them, changing the colors, but still giving you the same incredibly good physics engine, all of the drifting, and that Ridge Racer fun we know and love. And that's why a game like this is so important, because there were so many different Ridge Racer releases across so many different arcade boards and home console releases on PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. Getting something like this really does bring all of them into one game, so you can basically enjoy the entire Ridge Racer lineage in one experience. And there's so many different tracks from different games as well. Let's pop over to another one here. Obviously this is one of the original tracks from the original Ridge Racer, but it's such a good track design and the layout is so fundamentally sound that even playing it basically 12 years later, it still 100% holds up from a racing perspective. And it is a lot of fun just to see how modern graphics got compared to the arcade original release, and I will pop over to the original Ridge Racer to show you the difference. Again, in third-person mode though, the sensation of speed just really isn't here, and it never has been in Ridge Racer, and this game introduced the nitro concept as well, which you charge up by drifting around corners. The longer the drift, the more that tank charges up, you can store 3. But as we move over to Ridge Racer 2 here, which is basically just a remake of the original Ridge Racer, you can see just how fundamentally different the graphics are obviously, but how extremely similar the track is, because it is just a reimagining of that original track. Sure, we're playing it backwards here, but the same exact concept still holds true. And with the modern PlayStation Portable graphics, it's just a very pretty version of the game. Now don't get me wrong, Namco System 22 was a looker when it came out, and I still love the bright, vibrant graphics. Obviously, this release brings it way more down to a reality. You'll see here as I drift around this corner, I am going to bump into the walls. If I move back over to the same spot in first-person mode, I'm able to effectively drift around them, hold my racing line, and I have no issues whatsoever. So if you are playing this game or any other Ridge Racer game and you're finding that you just keep hitting the wall in third-person mode, trust me, move over to the cockpit. It's going to fundamentally change the entire experience. And I can't recommend that enough for the entire Ridge Racer franchise. Whatever game you're playing, in the cockpit mode, it just feels like that is the intended way the game should play. But of course it is a Ridge Racer game, and it has some fun remixes and remasters of original soundtrack elements with some new stuff as well. Go ahead and listen and I'll be right back.
3 laps to go. Okay, let's go. Just a little bit more. Ow!
The soundtrack definitely sells the intensity of that fast-paced racing action, and as we move back over to Rave Racer, I would say at least in this one track, I prefer the poppy, more vibrant colorways of the original than I do the PlayStation Portable version. But the great thing is there's so many different tracks from so many different iconic Ridge Racer games in here, you can pretty much pick and choose whatever you want. Now I am just showing you arcade mode. There's an entire career mode as well, but this is an arcade retrospective, so we're just focusing on the racing and the tracks themselves and the evolution of the series as far as the racing is concerned. But you can totally find a track you know and love here from a previous game, and you get an absolute metric crap ton of different vehicles to choose from, all the way through classics and a couple of special cars, which if you learn how to handle them, can be a ton of fun, but they can also be extremely difficult to handle as well. As we pop back over to another course here, when the game looks pretty, it just looks absolutely incredible. That vibrant blue sky in the background, the better polygon count on all of the models, it is truly a remaster and remake of all of those original courses, and even Rage Racer gets its love here, a game that in the video I said I wasn't super in love with, but on PlayStation Portable, in a remastered format, I actually really do enjoy the courses and the overall layout of Rage Racer here. I would say that of all the games in this compilation, of all the different tracks they comprise, the Rage Racer tracks are the most improved, and I would say that the R4 tracks I actually tend to prefer in the PlayStation 1 original. But that's the great thing, you get so much choice here, and I do love how much faster this game can be with those special cars. This hill portion always felt a little slow in Rage Racer, and if we move over to the PlayStation original, you're going to see just the difference here. Graphically, these do adhere pretty close to what they looked like in the original game versus Rave Racer, but you will see here as I go up the hill, the sensation of speed just 100% isn't there compared to the PlayStation Portable version. So if there's one game that's most improved by being comprised of new remastered tracks from the PlayStation Portable version, it definitely has to be Rage Racer. And they do change things up a little bit as well. This tunnel here definitely has a different look to it, so it is not trying to be a one-to-one recreation of the original tracks outside of all of the different turn structures. But you'll see here, these special cars just break loose. You can drift the ever-loving hell out of them, and when you learn them and master them on a particular course, they feel absolutely incredible. But it's going to take a very steep learning curve to find out how to handle some of the more difficult cars in the game. But again, that's what I love about something like Ridge Racer on the PlayStation Portable. You can put the time in, you can unlock these cars, you can get better at them, and suddenly you're basically racing around at 150, 160 miles an hour on a course that you started in the game doing 80 or 90. There's a great sense of progression here, and all of that progression just unlocks more tracks and faster vehicles for you to play around with. This game also has a really fun sense of humor, so go ahead and listen to the next sound sample. It always makes me smile and laugh when I see it, and I'll be right back to close out the video on this version of the game.
Yeah, the course is in excellent condition. Is your car tuned perfectly? Get ready. The race is about to begin.
That is right, one of the special vehicles is Pac-Man, and that's why I love this game so much. It faithfully recreates all of the courses from all of the original games, giving you them in a more modern perspective on more powerful hardware, but it also gives you so many different unlockables, and being able to run around this course from Ridge Racer R4 as a Pac-Man mobile is just one of the most fun and ridiculous things around. It is a very wild car to control. It is just here for fun and to kind of play around with. Definitely shouldn't be your main racer. But if you want to catch up on the Ridge Racer franchise, if you've never played any of the earlier games before, I would actually recommend you start here on the PlayStation Portable version. It is a more modern way to play all those original tracks, from Ridge Racer to Ridge Racer 2, Rave Racer and Rage Racer, even R4. They're all here for the most part, and it's just a really nice way to play it. And obviously via emulation you can get this thing all the way up to 4K, and it looks spectacular. But if you have a PlayStation Portable, the game's actually not that expensive either, which is surprising. But however you decide to play this game, definitely check it out, and then once you get a feel for the tracks, if you've never played the arcade originals, go back and play them secondarily just to see how the franchise got from here to where it started from. But this game is just a ton of fun, and there is a sequel to it as well, Ridge Racer 2. The naming conventions that Namco chose make no sense. It's so hard to keep track of what game actually is what game, but there is a sequel on the PlayStation Portable, and we'll be showing that shortly. But other than that, as Pac-Man here rips around the course in the highlight reel, this video is done. This game's a 10 out of 10, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, Pac-Man. Bye-bye.